Welcome to Data Skeptic All About Surveys, our season about survey design, interpretation, and methodology. Let your voice be heard at survey.dataskeptic.com. Something incredibly serendipitous has happened, and I'm excited to share it with you guys here. I got a letter in the mail the other day from the United States Census Bureau with a little form we're going to fill out together. A few days later, I got a second letter informing me that the first letter would be arriving, so that part didn't work out exactly right, but we're still on track. Alright, dear Los Angeles household, I am pleased to inform you that your household has been selected to participate in an important national survey on the education of people in the United States. The 2023 National Household Education Survey. The U.S. Census Bureau conducts a survey of households on behalf of the U.S. Department of Education every few years. We conduct it to gather information about learning activities that happen outside of schools. You have come to the right place. In the next few days, you will receive an invitation in the mail, that's the one that came out of order, from us to complete the survey. The survey can be completed at home by an adult in the household, that's me. Depending on your answers, it can take about 3 to 30 minutes to complete, so start the clock. And this is pretty cool. We included a $5 bill as a token of our appreciation for your participation, and they did indeed. Also, if you complete the survey online or by phone, we will mail you an additional $20. If you would like more information, please visit nces.ed.gov/NHES or toll free at 888-840-8353. Thank you in advance for your help in this important survey. Sincerely, Robert L. Santos, Director, U.S. Census Bureau. Robert, I got you. And I'm going to get that $20 too if I fill this out online, so let's do that. Alright, I'm going to the site and I'm entering my user ID, which I'm not going to tell you guys. Log in. Oh, I have a PIN. Let me copy and paste that into somewhere. Security question. I hate these security questions. I'm picking a random question and I'm entering a UUID that I'm generating with Python. People should stop asking these things like, what is your pet? My pet is Yoshi. And tens of thousands of people know that. But today my pet is BE94 and a bunch of other random digits. Sorry, Yoshi. Next. Are there any children of youth age 20 or younger living in your household? Include small children, foster children, babies, and youth who are away at college. No. Committedly childless. Next. Thank you for your participation in the National Household Education Survey. Your answers have been submitted. This survey is about children's care and educational experience. All right, well, that's why I got booted. Since you mentioned you did not have any children aged 20 or younger living in the household, you are not eligible for the remainder of this survey. However, your response is still important as it helps us understand your household. We will mail you $20 to show our appreciation for completing the survey. Please confirm your contact information below and you will receive the cash incentive. I sure will. They already know my address. Yes, that's my address. Thank you. You should receive your cash incentive soon. You will not receive. If you do not receive it after 3 to 5 weeks, please call us toll free at that same number from earlier. Exit survey. Okay, I guess I was more on the 3-minute end instead of the 30-minute end. Well, that was anticlimactic. But actually, if you take a lot of surveys online, that's not uncommon at all. The term industry people use is incidence. So obviously, this survey was looking specifically for households with children. Whatever percentage of households have that is the incidence rate. And of course, whatever you're looking for, I imagine households with children are fairly common, but households of children who have a particular ailment or illness, that's going to be a lot rarer. In fact, in my personal assessment, this is the largest source of fraud in the online survey space. I've already gotten 5, I'm going to get $20 more from the government for my very limited participation. Online surveys generally give you a smaller incentive. In fact, most survey takers make below minimum wage for their time, in my estimates. But the unfortunate thing is those that are kicked out generally don't get paid for most online surveys. So put yourself in their shoes. You're trying to make money. You start a survey. It says, do you own a Tesla? And you say no. And it says, sorry, we don't need you. Next survey, do you own a yacht? You say no. Sorry, we don't need you. I think a lot of people give up in frustration at that point. But there's another subpopulation that learns. Oh, if I want to participate in the survey, if I want to get the incentive, I need to read between the lines and figure out what they're looking for and answer in the affirmative. We'll revisit this topic and talk a little bit more about fraud in surveys and, more importantly, how to detect it. But that's not our topic for today, no. Today we're looking forward and asking questions about what role chatbots might play in future surveys. To me, there's a great promise here. Filling out some static survey, even if it has some branching logic or conditional things in it, it feels a bit limited in that format's ability to get information out of you. I wish I could sit down with every single listener of Data Skeptic and ask a few key things like, what do you like about the show and what do you dislike about the show? That's impractical. I can't meet with all of you, nor would all of you give your time. But that's all right, a random sample might do good if that sample is truly random. If I had that personal connection, I'd ask you questions in context. If I found out you weren't a programmer, I would stop asking you questions about programming. And maybe a good conversational agent would get people more engaged and want to share their opinion if they thought their opinion would be truly understood. Whether or not this will be a near-term or a long-term reality remains to be seen, but hopefully you can make up your own mind from listening to our interview today.
My name is Ziang Xiao. So I'm currently a postdoc researcher at the Microsoft Research Montréal with the FATE group. And also I am a research assistant professor at the Johns Hopkins University in the computer science department. So I will soon join the Johns Hopkins in 2024 to start a full-time position as assistant professor there.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your research focuses on?
I'm really interested in the question of how we understand human behavior at scale. Currently, like in the past, and also in the past in my PhD work, I'm looking at how we can use AI technologies, like how we design a AI and also build different machine learning or natural language processing models to power AI agent to help social scientists to design the studies that they would like to design, to collect information that they would like to collect for their own research questions. So I think my role is more like a developer that's sitting behind the social scientists to power them with their abilities to understanding humans at scale.
Can you talk a little bit about the collaboration with social scientists? What's that like?
So, in my background, I did my bachelor in social psychology and have been really, really interested in about how human behaves and why we are making that decisions and why we're doing any kind of actions, doing make decisions and why we behave like that. So this is like the questions that are always in my mind. So naturally, like I think working with the social scientist is like a natural way for me to satisfy my own curiosity of human behavior. And also, I work in the intersection between the computer science and social science. So it's a pretty natural way. And in my own work, I also use a lot of like theories that developed by the social scientists, trying to understand how people interact with conversational agents, interact with the different systems, with different AI. So it's like their research inform my study. So I hope I can build tools for them to, for the social scientists to really empower them with new tools to operationalize their own thoughts and answer the questions that they are interested in.
Well, in the form of surveys, researchers have had that tool for a while. I mean, they did them in the mail and maybe on horseback and whatnot before that, but it's a straightforward way to collect some data. What sort of tools can we offer to these people that they don't already have?
So I think survey is a very interesting instrument. So it gave us the ability to understand people's preference, what they like, why they are making decisions. We asked a lot of questions in a survey. Like we even could understand their personality in a form of survey. As you said, like survey has been here for a long time. We starting actually at the very beginning of the survey, like we use pencil and paper, and even we make phone calls. And there are so many ways to do a survey. And right now, I'm interested in is like right now we have been interact with a lot of different kinds of AI, like with a chatbot, with a voice assistant. I mean, there's like computing systems, and how we can use this novel technology to improve a survey or maybe provide another form of a survey that to better understand, to get like higher quality of information to better understand human. So like in my PhD work, I have been working on the direction of a conversational survey. So the idea of the conversational survey is that we build a conversational agent. So the agent could be in form of a like a text chatbot or in the form of a voice assistant. And how we can use this conversational agent to ask questions and to use that as a tool to collect information. So it's like the rule as a traditional survey, but like in a more interactive way.
Could you expand on some of those interactions? I think of a survey as a fairly static thing. Even if there's a free text field and I pour out all my thoughts into it, I don't always get feedback the way I do in a conversation.
So I would say a survey is it's a form of interview. So if we take the interview as an analogy here is that, so the interview, we can see there are different forms. There are fully structured interview, where just the interviewer follow a script, ask all the questions, and the respondent provide an answer. So this form is really like a survey that we gave, like a static survey that we gave them a fixed set of questions, and the people just like answer all of them in order. And there's another form of interview, like a semi-structured interview. Probably it's like the interview we are doing right now. Like you may have a list of questions, but like in the conversation, you ask follow-up questions. So you will react to my response, and we can continue this conversation to go deeper into each of the questions and get more richer and deep information. And there's another kinds of interview is like fully unstructured interview. So it's just like interviewer, interviewee meet together and they just discuss whatever they want to discuss. So it's a kind of rare case. I would say most of the interview that we are seeing right now is more like a semi-structured interview. So connect back to the conversational survey versus a static survey. I think one goal is to see how much we can move from a static, fully structured interview to a semi-structured interview. And if we can do a full unstructured interview. So it's like we are moving along that spectrum. Like the conversational survey here would able to provide this opportunity to process people's response on the fly. And the computer system or like a AI model would able work in the back end to decide what question to ask next. And could we go deeper? Could we prompt for more information? Could we probing into some areas that the researchers or people are interested in? So this kind of interactivity, I think, it could be providing a conversational survey naturally. I mean, we can do something very similar with a static survey that we can have a different branches, but it's not as natural as a conversation. And the way that the static survey process like different kinds of information also different than how a chatbot would able to do. So I would say like I see this is a benefit of interactivity that a chatbot would able to provide or kind of conversational agent would able to provide. I mean, it's a really, really diverse field. The output space of an answer is infinite. So how we respond to that is a fascinating question.
Yeah, there's some exciting possibilities there, but also the concern that what if the survey result doesn't match the chatbot result? We expect some sort of parity here. How do you look at it?
So I think that's a really, really good question. Since this question really concerns about the validity of a conversational survey. At the current stage of research, we haven't really looked into this question deeply. So we are at the very early stage of building a conversational survey. If we look at how human interviewer do an interview, experienced interviewer like you, so if you're gonna trying to answer the same question with multiple interviewee, you will have this kind of internal consistency, like what information you are looking for, how did you manage the interview, and get the information that you are really looking for. But this kind of consistency really came from an experienced interviewer, which right now we see there's a huge gap between a chatbot and experienced interviewer.
Sure.
So my research in the future, I'm trying to fill this gap, but right now I see there's a long way to go.
If saving more and spending less is one of your top goals for 2023, why are you still paying insane amounts every month for your phone bill? Switching to Mint Mobile is the easiest way to save this year. As the first company to sell premium wireless services online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton, with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. If you're also looking to do some extra savings this year, Mint Mobile offers you premium wireless for just $15 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily in minutes with eSIM. Listeners, the time to act is now. Get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free. Go to mintmobile.com/dataskeptic. That's mintmobile.com/dataskeptic. Cut your bills and get that $15 a month. mintmobile.com/dataskeptic. When I look at the results of a survey, of course, I want to see the distribution over the answers people selected and things like that. It poses some challenges in a conversational mode because I don't know that I can read every survey conversation. How can you report that or give me some sort of executive summary?
This is really another challenge that along with the scalability that the conversational survey will able to provide. So the idea of the conversational survey is that we are trying to enable a researcher to maybe interview millions of people. But one of the problems here is that I can easily take a mean of a millions of numbers, but it's very hard to analyze this kind of open-ended questions.
Yeah.
So I think right now people are working in these directions. For example, there are tools has been built for people to do this kind of topic modeling, trying to use a unsupervised method to grab the key information in a set of free-form responses. And also there are a more like human AI collaborative work that people work with an AI agent to go through all the data and provide a meaningful analysis. So it's very similar to how people analyze the qualitative data. But one challenge here that we are facing a large amount of data. The question that you ask is still an ongoing research question, like how we can enable researchers to process this qualitative data in a more consistent, robust, and also meaningful way.
Would you mind describing the process of what it would be like to participate in one of these surveys? If I
Mhm.
had been one of your respondents, what would it have been like?
Yeah, so the current way that we are building a conversational survey is like we invite you to chat with a chatbot. So by the time that in my study that we are comparing a form-based survey versus a conversational survey, we send a link to a participant, and the participant just like they open the link just as they do when they are trying to respond to a form-based survey, and open that link. The link gonna take you to an interface, and on that interface there will be a chatbot. So the conversation starts. So the chatbot first introduce themselves, like what the purpose of this conversation, and the chatbot gonna start to deliver questions. So it's really similar to actually it's quite similar to what we are doing right now.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine then that most people understand it's a chatbot. Probably not, they don't think it's a human. But we know chatbots are getting sophisticated. People are talking to them more. It's more than just click the right box for your answer. Did you find people getting used to that and engaging with it in a broader way than they might with a survey?
In my study, that we explicitly tell the user that this is a chatbot, since we really want to see how the current stage of a chatbot would able to collect information from people. And in our conversation, that we do observe that people kind of chat with the chatbot with all different ways. So people trying to fulfill their own curiosity. So for example, a lot of questions that we see in this kind of conversation script is people are asking, who are you? Like, are you real? Are you a human? Like, so what's your daily life looks like? So people are curious about the chatbot. And also people are curious about like what kind of technology behind the chatbot. People are asking what kind of model powers you. So people are curious about the chatbot, and also people are curious about the nature of the research. People not only just respond to a question, they may ask some like questions regarding the procedure. So they ask like how many questions are left and when I can finish it, and after finish it, so there will be a compensation, how they gonna claim the compensation. So there are a lot of questions regarding the procedure, and there are questions about the chatbot itself. And also we see people are like there's some sad chat. People ask, "What did you do on your like weekend time? Do you sleep?" So it's really a like all kinds of conversation would able to happen since the conversation is really free and there's no constraint.
Yeah. Well, in traditional surveys, I know one of the metrics people look at is completion rate. Did people
Mhm.
finish a survey? Do you have equivalent ways of looking at the quality of your responses?
So in a conversational survey that we still kind of follow a semi-structured way or like structured way to deliver questions. So we know like what questions people already answered. So if people finish the whole the conversation with the conversational agent who are like doing this conversational survey, then it marks a survey as completed. So we can still compute the same similar metrics in terms of the completion rate and response rate.
Very cool. I also noticed you defined the response quality index, which was kind of a new idea to me. Would you mind sharing a little bit about the motivating factors and what that is?
The reason why we're defining this kind of matrix is we really want to understand how people answer those questions. And we want to provide a general evaluation framework that is not only fit for a single survey, but like the later researchers were able to build on our result and evaluate their own survey. So this is kind of a motivation on us why we are trying to build a index or a evaluation matrix for a open-ended response quality. This kind of quantitative number would able to help the chatbot designer to really understand how their conversational agent performs in terms of doing this kind of conversational survey. And also in the future, we see the potential of a system that will able to use those numbers as a feedback on the real time to kind of optimize the conversational strategy or elicitation strategy that a chatbot will able to use to deliver different kind of questions or deliver repair or trying to manage the conversation in different ways.
And I know you did some baseline comparison to a traditional form versus a
Mhm.
chatbot. Could you talk a little bit about the differences between those two results?
So I think one thing I want to say is that the study that we did is about like 4 years ago. At that time, this kind of conversational survey are still it's very novel. I think that although that we observe a benefit, so in our results that we see that the people are respond to a conversational survey like the chatbot with much better results. So in terms of the relevancy, specificity, clarity, and like how much detail that they provide when they respond to a chatbot's question. But like this is really a novel interaction. There is one potential like a confounding variable here might be it's just new. People love novel things. And right now, I think things could be different. But in our study, we do observe there's a very strong effect. It's a very strong difference in terms of how people react to a conversational survey and a form-based survey.
Well, since the time of this being published, there have been some major advancements in natural language processing, and the public has become quite aware of them through systems like ChatGPT. Do you have any thoughts on how those emerging technologies are going to influence both people's perceptions of conversational agents and the ability to run surveys like this?
ChatGPT is a very impressive model in terms of the capability that it would able to provide, but also it brings a lot of concerns. So as we see how people use this kind of generative model, that we see sometimes the model generates something that is not factual, and sometimes the generation is not along the line that we want the model to generate. It definitely changed how public perceive this kind of model. To my understanding right now, I haven't seen any studies along in that direction, but I think there's definitely a lot of researchers are working on how this model changed public perception of AI and what are the effects there. So I think this one concern is that how do we really calibrate this kind of perception with the agent's real ability? Since we don't really want to this kind of over reliance happen or under reliance happen is not a good result. So we want when people are working with this large language model or generative model, they would able to have a good perception on the model's capability and the limitations. So people would able to be prepared for any problem that the model would able to produce and have a mitigation strategy. In terms of the conversational survey, I think we are trying to make this experience more personalized. So we want this conversational agent would able to react to different responses, to complex responses. I think this kind of large language model provide a method to interpret people's responses. It would be very valuable to study how we can incorporate this kind of large language model in a conversational survey, whether we design some framework to incorporate large language model as a module to drive a conversational agent, or maybe in the future we have a model that can just off the shelf, they could just do this conversational survey by just input the questions we're interested in and what are the survey topic and what the direction that we want to go for each participant. But we are far from that. So right now, I think it's still open space. So I'm very excited. I'm really happy to see this model being released. And it's really kind of drawing the attention not only for the participant who are going to chat with this kind of chatbot, but also researchers to the field. I think going to be really benefit for the future development of a conversational survey.
Absolutely. And I think most good researchers share your concern that it can say anything, and that's a little dangerous or concerning. Do you have a vision for what we do there? Is like a human in the loop approach the right way to go, or how can someone use this technology responsibly?
Currently, I don't think there's a solid conclusion on what should we do. Right now, we are still like in exploration phase. We are trying to see what are the potential problems with the model, how we can grab a better understanding the model's behavior. So that's, I think it's, so right now, like in my current research, I'm really interested in the question about evaluation, like how we properly evaluate this model's behavior. And also, I think one interesting point with this large language model compared to the previous task-specific model is that those models are very easy to use in terms of I don't really need a lot of computational power. I don't need of data. As long as there is a model hosted somewhere, I can just use it off the shelf. This opportunity kind of opened the space in terms of how people are going to use the model. So people can use this model in their own context with their own purpose. So how we can help people, designers who are interested in this model to properly evaluate the model's capability. I think this is a very interesting and valuable research question to pursue in the future.
And I'm thinking a lot about the promise of this as a approach. I remember taking a survey a while back at a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and everything about the hotel was great except the Wi-Fi was the worst experience I'd ever had. And they didn't ask me a single question about the Wi-Fi, nor could I write it in at the bottom. But a conversational agent presumably might have gotten that out of me. Do you have any vision or thoughts on what the opportunities are here for organizations to really leverage this in a smarter way?
Yeah, I think for a conversational survey, it's really this kind of interactivity the system will able to provide. It makes this kind of survey not a single direction where I just want to get information from you. It really enables this kind of information exchange
Mm.
that you can proactively tell me like what are your feedback. It's just like you're already chatting with a real human. I mean, if this is an extreme example, if we can enable an agent really kind of in a more smarter way to get the information. So I think the information exchange is a good framework to use here. So the agent trying to get information from you, and you also you may also want to know why you are answering this kind of question and how your answers would able to contribute to
Yeah.
something and what are this something is. So I think building this kind of mutual common ground, it will be very beneficial to the response quality since I may ask you a question and you give me an answer. If you don't really know the real intent I'm asking the question, the answer may not very useful for me as well. So I think building this kind of a mutual understanding will also provide a new opportunity to make this conversational survey more effective.
And do you find that research or interest in this area, I should say, is it still primarily in the research domain or are there commercial explorations going on as well?
I think there are definitely a commercial interest since we see there are companies already starting to build chatbot or help the chatbot designer to build such a tool to deliver a conversational survey. Another benefit I want to say about the conversational survey is that right now we are living in a life that we are embedded by all kinds of AI. I bet like there's many people are using Alexa, are using the Siri, are using like Google Assistant, this kind of voice assistant. And this kind of everyday in AI in their life makes this kind of conversational survey a another good application, I would say, since maybe I don't really want to ask you 10 questions or like 20 questions, 30 questions at a time. Maybe as some scenario, I'm just interested in one question. And this kind of everyday AI would be able to provide opportunity to deliver this question. So to make a conversational survey more distributed. So it's not necessary to ask you to answer a lengthy survey. We can break it down to small sessions
Mm-hmm.
in order to get more valuable information. But also, like in this process, we need to pay attention to the issue of privacy, since we don't really want to make this conversational survey really intrusive and really be a threat to people's privacy. So that's why I see the conversational survey is really in the preliminary stage, and there are so many unanswered questions, and there is no definite way to build a good conversational survey. The space is very open right now.
Although the technology is moving quick, do you think it's within reach, or do we maybe need true AGI to really have an ideal conversational agent?
I'm not a strong believer of AGI, since I think it's very far reach
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how we achieve those capabilities. But like I think for the conversational survey, so we can always achieve a better state without a AGI, since the model are still progressive and
Mm-hmm.
we are seeing like better models. And also I want to emphasize on the factor of design. So the model is just one thing. It's just about how we generate a question or interpret a response, but how the chatbot deliver a question and how the chatbot really chat with a respondent. There are a lot of factors are irrelevant to the model performance. And I think there is still a huge opportunity, and there's a lot of questions that I haven't have a good understanding in terms of like how we design a interaction between a chatbot or a voice assistant with a survey respondent. And also I want to say that the experience that a experienced interviewer has is valuable and irreplaceable. So I
Mm-hmm.
think this human knowledge, if we're gonna build a agent that fully grasps this kind of experience and this kind of knowledge, we still have a long way to go.
Well, I'm curious if you have any advice for anyone who does want to try and create a conversational agent. Are there common pitfalls people fall under, or just good best practices you can recommend?
I would say when we are building a conversational survey that we need to consider one thing you need to consider is how people respond to each of the questions. I mean, we can easily build a survey just like a static form, but it
Mm-hmm.
loses a lot of advantage in a conversational survey. So to design this kind of interactivity, I think understanding your respondent is very important. Like what are the kind of anticipated answers are. And also, I think building a conversational survey is not a single shot task. We are not saying that we build a survey right now, build a conversational survey right now, and it's gonna work forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think building this conversational survey is a progressive process. So we need to bootstrapping participant response and to see what are the things that we anticipated and what are the things that are surprising to us. And we need to always adjust the design of a conversational agent in the best response to this diverse set of user responses. And also, I would say like how the chatbot, like or the conversational agent respond to a participant response is important since it's really encouraging to foster the trust, to encouraging a conversation, a communication, and I think this kind of a design would able to elicit a valuable and useful information given the limited model capability.
Absolutely, yeah. If I felt that my information was being taken and used for an important choice, I would want to give it more freely for sure.
And also, I think this kind of conversational survey, one thing people always missing is we need to keep people informed in terms of
Yeah.
like what are the information that we are really collecting. So we need to keep in mind this sensitive information. We need to protect them, to protect people's privacy, and we need to make sure people are making informed decision with their answer a agent's question. Since in our study that we also observe a phenomenon that when people are chatting with the agent, they sometimes they may over disclose. So they disclose some information that we are not anticipate that the participant may give, and those
Ah.
information might be a privacy. issue. So it may create a lot of privacy issue if this information are leaking. So I think we, as a chatbot, like a conversational survey designer, they need to keep this in mind. How they help make sure that the respondents are making informed decision when they are providing answer.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I could see absolutely the opportunity for people to share detailed private information if they gain a level of comfort, and you have to be a good steward of that data.
Yeah.
Is this all kind of custom things to be built, or are there technologies people can leverage?
Right now, there are chatbot platforms. So, for example, the GG is a good platform that I interned with them like twice in the past. And it's a very nice platform that provides this kind of graphical interface and no-code AI, where the chatbot designer would able easily build a conversational agent without extensive knowledge about machine learning.
Oh, very cool.
So this is like a one type of a platform, a conversational survey designer will able to use. And also there are other more like dialogue framework. So people can also build them from scratch. So there's many options that a conversational survey designers were able to use to build their own survey.
Well, what's next in your research?
So I think I'm right now in a position of exploring many directions, since I think I'm type of a person who are curious about everything. So currently, I'm interested in the idea of the evaluations. Like just as I mentioned to you before, since I say one interesting question to answer is that so this kind of large language model, this kind of generative model really enables people to use this model in different contexts, and how we can help the people, the designers or the users who are use this model to build their own application to better understanding the model capability, to build evaluation matrix for their own purpose, and also making this evaluation more robust and contextualized. I think this is a very interesting direction that I'm currently exploring. And also there are like also want to continue my research on this conversational survey in terms of how we can incorporate more complex conversation strategies, different elicitation strategies that we could use in order to collect a better information while delivering a more engaging experience.
And is there anywhere listeners can follow you online?
I have a Twitter, but I'm not like super active. But also, I have my personal website, so I will try my best to keep everything updated.
Sounds good. We'll have links to both in the show notes for people who want to follow up. Ziang, thank you so much for taking on time to come on and share your work.
Yeah, thanks so much for the invitation. I'm very glad to come here and share my research. Thank you so much.
Before we go, I want to thank those of you who joined me for our first installment of The Focus Group. This is our live stream, meant to be a more direct way for me to have some contact with the audience. If you have some feedback and you'd like to share, please join, or if you just want to lurk. When there are no questions from the audience, I'm working on the software for the survey platform that you can find at survey.dataskeptic.com. So if you see a bug or something weird, and there's a lot of weird stuff, we just launched it. I have to fix the way the labels work on some of the graphs. Maybe I'll do that on the next installment if I don't get it done before then. February 1st, that's a Wednesday. February 1st, 2023, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Head over to dataskeptic.com/live. I've got a link there. You can click it and it'll add a calendar invite to your Google Calendar or your Apple Calendar or a couple of other options. I found a really nice NPM library that does that. So you can get a calendar invite for yourself to remind you, please join me February 1st, 3 p.m. Pacific. And we're launching new surveys at least every Friday, sometimes a few more in between, so head back over to survey.dataskeptic.com. Please share your opinion. That way I can share some of the aggregate results on future episodes. I just launched a survey about programming and one about the type of car you drive. Since we found out from earlier surveys that the vast majority of you have cars as your primary means of transportation, I've learned a lot so far from you guys, and I love the opportunity to keep zooming in on understanding what the audience thinks. So please head over to survey.dataskeptic.com. Even if you've been there before, there's new surveys all the time. And join me for the focus group, dataskeptic.com/live.